Can't see your shirt.
Am I live?
Yeah.
Are you sure? You told me not to ask you questions.
What's
up, everybody? It's Sunday night. It's Teacher Talk Live, no, it's not. It's Sunday Teacher Talk. Oh,
Sunday night Teacher
There's
Talk.
so many that are the same thing. Nahara is saying good morning. So for those of you that are new, maybe you just found this channel, maybe you have zero idea who I am or what's going on or why I still have birthday decorations up in my house like I did last week. This is Sunday Teacher Talk. The idea here is that we are trying to help folks, not just me, but everyone here in the comment section are trying to help people out that are getting ready to go back to school and are, nervous because it's Sunday night, or you're not sure because Friday left off so poorly, or, you want to try something new and you're not sure how you should do it. So I don't have the answers to everything, but this is a community endeavor. I'm just the talking head, and then everybody else has all these great answers on the side. That really happens. Like last week I was reading through the comments and there's tons of great stuff being kind of talked about and like people helping each other out. And I love it. So before we jump into this, I want to real quick talk about this shirt that I got with my name on it. There is, well, I wrote it down. This girl, Vanessa. I hope that looks normal and not backwards, because it looks backwards to me. But anyway, well, they can just hold a mirror up and they'll be able to read it. It's like a puzzle. Vanessa at My Second Grade Life on Instagram and YouTube. Oh, there it goes. Yeah, word. So she and her husband make t-shirts, and so they sent me an email. They're like, hey, do you want a t-shirt with your logo on it? And well, first of all, they said, do you want a t-shirt? And then they had a lot of cute stuff, and I was like, look, I don't teach at a school that I think would appreciate cute t-shirts, but I said, like, could you do something with my logo on it? And this is what they sent me. And now I have a t-shirt with my logo on it, and I'm kind of stoked, and because it makes me feel like a big deal. So you can check them out on YouTube and on Instagram. Vanessa and her lovely husband at My Second Grade Life. I wonder what grade she teaches. So then, what else? Oh, then yesterday, I want to say what's up to everyone in 1 second, but I forget things a lot because I'm getting older. And if I don't do it when I'm thinking of it, it goes away. Yesterday, I spoke at, I will never be able to pronounce this school name. It's like Conewago Intermediate High School or something like that, where I met this woman at ISTE. She teaches at this school in like near Gettysburg, PA. And they were doing an ed camp. And so they asked me to come and speak. And I drove. I didn't realize it was as far away as it was, but I still would have went anyway. And so I went to this program yesterday, and I got to talk about like what it was like the value of being on social media as a teacher, whether you're making YouTube videos, whether you're on Instagram, whether you're hooking up with people through DMs and stuff. So it was really great. It was really fun to meet people. And it's always fun to meet people that like already know the channel, because then I'm just like, this is interesting because I'm all alone right now, except for the wife and the dog. So what are we looking at here? Liz Ann is saying hello from Puerto Rico. I finally made it to one of these. What's up, lady? How are you? Matthew Reyes, thank you very much. One Swim Chick. I feel like I haven't seen that name in a long time. Hey, Reynolds. What's one piece of advice for classroom management that you would give a new teacher? I'm going to tell you that in just a moment. But I really appreciate that you're on here. Sarah Childs. Who else am I looking at here? Kimberly Wallback. What's up? Are you waving?
Yeah.
Happy fall. It is fall here in North America. Trevor, by the way, just started college and graduated high school last year. Awesome. Trevor, I saw you have a question on your dog. I will totally answer that for you. My girl Nahara over in, well, that's not a real name. Believe it's Miss Charlotte. Maybe it is Nahara. Maybe I thought I read something early. You left before on somewhere then. I don't know. Amir's on here. Who else? Amy from North Carolina. Who was I just? Oh, Joe Chavez lives in North Carolina. And he's going to do a website for me because I want to look like a professional. I finally remembered to watch the live. Alexis Hall, there she is. I think we talked about your question last week from Teachers Connect, which we're going to talk about in 1 second too. Thanks, Liz. I like my shirt too. I feel stoked. Sarah Child says she wants a shirt. I never thought about making shirts, but I could. If people, and let me know, do you want some real rap swag? I'd hook it up. Who else did I see? Richard Royster. I was at the conference yesterday. I'm going to get to the questions. This is the last thing I'm going to talk, and then I'm going to jump into them. I was at this Ed Camp conference yesterday, and I met a lot of principals there, and they were real leery about whether or not they should start a YouTube channel or whether they should be on social media. And I was like, you got to check out my boy Richard Royster, who's down in Kentucky. And everyone was like, oh, Jerry Brooks. And I'm like, no, not Jerry Brooks, the other guy from Kentucky. And he is doing cool stuff. And I was like telling them like how you vlog and what you're vlogging about, what your idea was when we talked. And they thought that was fantastic, even as a way to sort of like thwart sort of like fake news on my wife is cracking up right now.
Because he said they're chicken.
Oh, so yeah, so they were like, I don't know how to do it. Like, what do I talk about? What do I talk about? And I'm like, dude, you've been a principal for 10 years. You got it. You have something better than a first year principal. Like, you know something anyway. So like, it was cool. So I hope that they come check you out. We got wife. I'm super thirsty. Oh, let's talk about Teachers Connect. Have you heard about this? Let me tell you.
It's a great
Teachers Connect is a online program. I think we're simulcasting with them this evening. That was the plan, as long as I did it right, because I never simulcast on anything before. So I'm really hoping that my friends over there got the link. But look, honestly, Teachers Connect is a place where you can go. You sign up. If you're an educator, you go on there, you leave your question, and then people can answer your question. Like, parents don't see it, kids don't see it. You don't have to search through hashtags and get lost in the Twitter feed. It's like simple. It's all on one big board, kind of like a Pinterest idea. And then you just go on there and you can like look stuff up and you can just help people. So I think it's a really great way to do, like, if you're having a crappy day, just go make someone else's day better and it'll make you feel better. And so our first question tonight is from that. I was reading this earlier by someone named Anonymous. I don't think that's the real name, could be. They were saying like that they have a student this year, and I'm going to paraphrase this because it's very long. They have a student this year and he hurts his classmates. He back talks to the teacher. He laughs when corrected. He doesn't care when he gets sent to the office, doesn't think it's a big deal. And so like, what do you do with that? And there were some really nice people that answered and talked about the fact that like, you should build relationships with this student. You should really kind of like have some grace or get to know him more or get to know his family. And that is my first answer, right? So they kind of already answered that. But then my backup answer for that, or my second part of that, is always, there will always be some child every year. I mean, I've had them every year. Maybe you teach in a magical school of unicorns and elves and this doesn't happen. But in my school, there's always one kid that's like that. And the issue with that is that oftentimes we give that kid too much attention. And what that does is it takes away from the attention you can give other students in the class, especially students who are flying below the radar, that are quietly suffering. And so I just think it doesn't mean you can't give time and attention to that one student. It just means to be mindful of the fact that like sometimes that becomes sort of a black hole and those kids get all of your attention and you can't like connect with those other kids as well. So I just think that's how I would answer that question if I was in that position, because you just don't want to give them all of your attention. So what do we got? I'm really thirsty tonight. Good thing you got me this big bottle of water. I'm super thirsty.
They're supposed to be for little kids at a birthday party.
They look like it. They look like they're for tiny people. So Lightning Storm Fights is saying, I don't know why I say names like that, like I'm announcing them. Hey, you should do a video on how to deal with kids' behavior that don't pay attention and people call the bad kid.
I thought that was a question. My bad.
So, but I could talk about it.
Okay.
So I hasten to label anyone, man. You know, I was saying some of my sophomores came back this year, and the sophomores always see the freshmen and think like, Reynolds, these kids are out of pocket. They're just wilding all the time. They're just like they're crazy. Well, good thing we weren't like that. And it's like, they were all like that. In ninth grade year, they're all like that. They just have this foggy memory of what things actually looked like. And so, you know, this many years in, I mean, I'm not like, I'm not, some of you have far more experience than I do, but even 13 years in, it's like some of my favorite kids were the hardest in freshman year. One of my guys, Joe, that I love was like so hard to figure out, so hard to connect with freshman year. I mean, every once in a while, you get an Imir who's like super easy and like is lovely and a very nice kid. But every once in a while, you get a Joe, and Joe doesn't want to do anything. Joe puts his head down. Joe gives you a hard time every day. Joe doesn't like any of the teachers. Joe hates everything. And then, you know, by senior year, Joe's your favorite kid in the whole world. You know why? Because you put in the work. And when you put the work in the kids, sometimes it doesn't pay out. Sometimes that kid is just a nightmare and he was a black hole of your attention. It doesn't work. But that shouldn't stop you from doing it, because every once in a while you get a Joe, and Joe will be my homie for the rest of his life. I will show up at his wedding no matter if I'm invited or not. I might even start officiating out of nowhere. But I just, you know, that's why I think you shouldn't label kids, and you just put in the time. Have them eat lunch with you. Do something ridiculously nice. Meet them outside of the constraints of the classroom, and it really, really goes a long way. If you see they're kicked out of a class, talk to them. If you see them in the morning, shake their hand, say what's up, find out where their locker is. Make sure you accidentally walk by it every day and say hello. And that changes everything. Trevor L is asking, good evening, Reynolds. I want your advice. What do you do about, what do you think about culinary arts being taught in high schools? I want to become a teacher, a high school culinary art educator in the future. I feel like someone else asked this question recently.
Start at college.
So I think, I think it's great, because I think we need to be teaching things in schools that make kids want to be there, right? And so I've bought cookbooks for kids before that wanted to be cooks, or I've bought like everything from like Anthony Bourdain's books, and then anyone who Anthony Bourdain made famous. I've bought their books as well. I've bought books on food truck culture, that kids that are into that life, that makes them excited. And so in my class, how can I tap into that? And so I buy books on those topics, and then kids get interested, and that's how they learn. So I think it could be cool. You know, I think it's going to be one of those things that gets cut out pretty quickly. I mean, like when we cut out music and drama and culinary arts and wood shop and metal shop, and like, because we're focused on testing, I would be mindful of like where you're willing to live, what you're willing to do to do that craft. And then if not, is there somewhere else you can get connected in doing something like that? Like maybe you start an after school program. Maybe you get connected with a currently existing after school program and you work with them, or you work as someone that, like, I don't know, wouldn't it be kind of dope if you had like a super cool like food truck and you showed up every week and like kids helped you like prepare lunch and stuff like that, and it was sort of like an elective? Or I just think there's I would be interested in like thinking outside the box on that one, and like trying to come up with like some cool stuff that you could do, just in case it doesn't fit into the traditional model of what culinary arts could be in a high school. One swim chick is asking, hey Reynolds, what's one piece of advice on classroom management that you would give a new teacher? I would say, one, do not show fear. All right. I was going to say don't be afraid, but that's not always possible. But just don't show fear. And that doesn't mean you have to be mean back to a kid, but just going over and like not shying away from the fact that a kid won't stop talking. So I have a dude right now. He's in, I forget what period. He sits right in the front and center, and he talks all the time. He just won't stop. And I will win this competition because I will put him, like, I'll make sure that I'm connecting with him every single time that it happens. And, because I don't like moving seats. I just think it's weird when they're in ninth grade, especially when my guys look like men. It feels childish. So I'm just going to like keep you there, and you're going to like kind of learn to handle yourself in that position. And so I think the other thing is consistency. Like if you say something's a rule, you can change it if you feel like it's not a fair rule, right? But if you think it's good and it's important to you, then just be consistent, and the kids will figure it out soon enough when you are relentless in what you ask for. So whether that's like no late homework, no talking when I'm talking. Like you can't, if you say that's the thing, you cannot let it go. People will treat you the way you teach them to treat you. And so I just think that's a really important lesson to learn in life. What do you got for me, dude?
Matthew Reyes, but it's like in 2. It's the one with the M.
Got it. Matthew Reyes is saying, what about shop class? Due to all your experience, I do have you ever taught at a...
He's asking if you ever thought about teaching at a shop class. Teaching shop class.
Oh, so I teach, no, but I do teach shop. I taught like a DIY class after school one time. And so so here's what I do. I try to find things that the students are interested in, and then I figure out like, how can I fit into that? So one year it was like after school, we made like, there's a really great YouTube channel called, I'm going to forget what it's called. Anyway, they have really simple projects on there, like how to make concrete stools, how to make planters, how to make all kinds of weird crap. And so we just did that one year after school. This year I'm doing a YouTube after school program because everyone wants to be a YouTube gamer. And so I created a class after school. I'm going to teach them like how to edit, how to find music, how to use hashtags, how to make a thumbnail, how to do a live feed and stuff like that. So they're really stoked about it. And it was really fun last week because they had a gazillion questions. Kayla Crozier, what's up? Do you see the Google Teacher video? No. What's the Google Teacher video? Can you put a link in here? I don't know if it allows you to, but if you put a link, I'll check it out.
I found it. But
oh, you found it? Oh, my wife found it. I'll watch it after this. Hello from Argentina. Is that what it said after that? Bam, nice. Wait for Life's looking it up. So, all right. I already got another one. I was going to start talking about. Am I going to? My lovely middle is asking, are you going to sell your T-shirt? So I didn't make this, but like I was saying, if you think I should make T-shirts and you want some Reynolds swag, anybody else, like let me know in the comment section. I'll gladly make sure. I don't know what people like all the time. It's a mystery. So I'm asking you, what do you want? I'll hook it up. And then what else am I looking at here? Are you looking for another one?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Any advice for a building sub? So, man, I think so. That was my friend Kimberly Wallback. So I think being the sub is really difficult, right? And some of you know this. But I think if you were going to be a successful sub, which I was not, I subbed for 3 days and I hated it, and then I just never did it again. I went to Home Depot and got a job. Do you remember that?
I do.
I remember I hated it because
it was middle school.
Because the kids didn't care about me, and I think in retrospect, I've known a lot of people that were really successful subs. I knew a guy at Winslow Township High School. I don't know if he's still there or not. He was a sub in the middle school, and he was their go-to guy. He had been there for long enough, all throughout college, that not only did he make relationships with tons of kids and then got hooked into the play program after school, so he was like helping with the play, he really made connections with kids, and he had no problems. He was like their favorite sub. And then when he got out of college, he just like got a job there. Like they were like, nope, we don't even have to interview. Like, you're our guy. We've seen you for the last 2, 3, 4 years subbing here. You're a part of everything already. It's like such a natural fit. So I think if you're going to sub, like, I would just be consistent and I would ride it out. So once the kids get to know who you are, once you can help them with their work, once they're familiar with your face, they're going to innately sort of calm down and give you a little bit more respect or ask about you. So just be cool and then stick it out. And I think it can really work out for you. Summer Tate is asking, I have a 7th grade student whose Lexile is 60. So for those of you that don't know, Lexile levels are like, it's essentially a number that is matched with a student's reading level. So like certain numbers equate like 2nd, 3rd, 5th grade, and so on reading levels. I had her read to me and she's at a 1st grade reading level. Some have suggested Saddleback books, high interest, low level, and MobyMax. Any advice? So I would say this, Summer, I would talk to your special education department. Someone like that, really, I mean, I don't know them, so I'm not going to diagnose. I'm not a doctor, and I don't play one on the internet. But Something like, what is it? 1 in 5 kids are dyslexic, right? And so if you have dyslexia or you have some kind of like, I don't know, I'm just, there's a million different things that could be going on. But if that child's tested, they might really figure out that like they need some kind of like Wilson programming to help them learn how to read better, or Orton Gillingham, or maybe they could, for now, I think while they're figuring that out, I think using audiobooks, like using Audible, or using, what's the one that you can read? There are apps that you can take an iPad and scan it, and it will read the text to you.
What's the other sheets? Like
what's the other, John? No, that
Learning Ally.
Learning Ally, things like that. So I would first go to the special ed department, because I can't think of a reason where, we say 5th grade, 7th grader would be on a 1st grade reading level that did not have some sort of disability. And what's going to happen is, like, if it goes too long, you can't even change it. Like, so I know folks that didn't find out they were dyslexic until they were 1st year in college. And at that point, you're just trying to like, kind of, you've already figured out a way to kind of get through it. And so after that, it's just trying to figure that out, but you can't like relearn. Like, you can't relearn to read at that point.
And so for the teacher,
that
just to help in the meantime, it should be audiobooks, I think, on what the child
is. So we're saying like audiobooks are like the jam for now. That's what I would do. And listen, I'm going to say this too right before I go to the next question. There are a lot of folks that I've talked to about kids that have dyslexia, and they get real hyped when you bring up audiobooks. They say that it's not a viable option. They're not really learning how to read. But I've had kids follow along in a book and listen to audio, or just listen. And my really good friend, whose name I'm going to forget because I can't remember anything anymore. What's her name? Jolene?
Yeah.
Joellen, who I did you might want to go back and watch this. I did an interview with her a few weeks ago. She's a dyslexia expert. And she said that, like, if we can give kids that are blind, and this isn't a diss against anyone, like, I'm not saying like, oh, if you're allowed to do this, then we're allowed to do this. But kids that are blind get Braille, right? We don't say, well, they're not learning how to read with their eyes. Like, that's not okay. Like, so kids that have a hard time reading with their eyes should be allowed to do it with audio programs. And they still learn all of the vocab and all that stuff as well. Anthony Biggs is saying, hey, what's your take on written feedback? I teach math, and we've been told about evidencing everything in books. Oh my gosh, I'm doing a great job tonight of reading. I like to use active learning stuff, and sometimes the kids do loads in lessons. But get little written down. Also, marking up takes a lot of my weekend. So I would say this, Anthony, what am I thinking of here? I think written feedback is interesting. I think it's a good job, or like it's useful, but it's only useful if the kids are reading it. There have been times when I've marked up all kinds of papers. I've spent all this time reading through and really correcting it. And then you give it back to a kid and they're like, a B, all right. And it goes in the bottom of their bag in the abyss, because every kid's backpack looks like Mary Poppins' purse. So I'd say if I was going to make sure I was reading stuff, I'd make sure they were sort of interacting with that. And then maybe they have to like create changes. Maybe they have to answer back to that feedback. Like, maybe you could write questions. If they hand it in, I know teachers that like have kids hand stuff in as a Google Doc, or will have like they already have like pre-made sort of like answers that they can pull from, because you end up saying a lot of the same things sometimes, right? Like, when you're answering those papers, I'm sure there's tons of kids that have like the same thing wrong all the time. So you could either, like, I've known people that have like put stamps on there, right? So there's like different stamps, and then on their wall there's some sort of key, and like, oh, okay, that means incomplete sentences. This one, oh, that, or you're just using like little symbols, and the kids start to know that like 2 lines under a letter means to capitalize it. Kids know that if you like RO means run on. And so what you're doing is creating shorthand, so you're not sitting there writing out paragraphs of stuff, because it does end up taking too long. I also think if you do that once a week, you're good. Like, having written feedback every single day, it's like, that's a lot to expect of a teacher. And I think just doing it once a week is totally fine. You said for the students also. I like when you whisper answers next to me.
I'm super opinionated as a parent.
Honey, you're not just super opinionated as a parent. I think as a dog owner, as a wife, as
I'm just opinionated.
yeah, as a purchaser of toothpaste. No. Nandini? Vade? Am I saying that right? Maybe not, because I don't usually say things right. How can university students get involved in the classroom before they start their education internship? I think this is a great question, and here's my answer. I think, one, if you are anywhere near a school, reach out. Maybe talk to the education department in your college. Maybe go back to your old school. Maybe send some emails and tell people like, hey, I go to school at this college and I'm going to be a teacher. I'd love to just come in and observe, or come in and help with small groups, or hand stuff out, or help you grade. Or do you have any openings as part of a after school program that you could like mentor kids, sit there and help them with their homework? You could even try and get a job. Like you could even just tutor yourself, because you're going to make more money that way. But go to like, I used to work for a company called Excel Academy, which was like a after school and during the summer tutoring program. It was completely scripted. I didn't have to do anything else. And it was fun. Or you could use a company that I've done promotion for before, which is Dada ABC. You go online, you teach kids in China how to speak English. All the lesson plans are all scripted. They tell you everything you have to do. But you're still getting that I think the big thing is getting interaction with students. Learning education in college, I've said this 100 times before, is like learning how to swim in a classroom. It's like, here we go. We're watching videos on what water looks like. This is the molecular makeup of water. This is how we're going to move our arms when we're swimming. And then you get into the classroom, you're like, oh no, this is not, it's like being in water for the first time. There's no way you can prepare yourself other than being in water. And so what you want to do is get yourself around students as much as you can, as quickly as you can. And I think that breeds a level of comfortability, helps you to start realizing like what kids are capable of and not capable of, helps you figure out what your personality and your style is going to be. So that's what I would do, is like reach out to anywhere. And I constantly have people that email me and they're like, hey, can I come observe you? And then I do like a little research, make sure that they have a background check or something like that. And then, yeah, they come into my school and they observe for the day. Kayla Crozier is asking, how do you know what subject to teach? I am stuck. I think that's supposed to be stuck between history and English, and it's difficult which one to choose because they are both great for their own reasons. And so, Kayla, I think one, maybe now that you're out of high school and you're in college, I think that's the case. I would go back to some high schools that weren't yours and maybe observe those classes. And then also just remember, like, as an English teacher, I feel like I teach a lot about history. Like when we read things like Lord of the Flies or Fahrenheit 451 or Persepolis, which is a graphic novel, there's tons of stuff that I have to teach kids on the front end. Like right now we're talking about like the Greek gods, and we're talking about Greek culture, especially in the time of Odysseus, and what the world looked like and what religion looked like and stuff like that. And so there's a lot of that in there. And I think if you teach history, you could, I mean, reading and writing across the curriculum is huge right now, and it is constantly pushed in our school. So I think there's totally an opportunity for you to like read more or study history through short story, through novels, through plays, and you can still have that piece in history. So I think you just kind of like pick one that you think works the best, and then just tie elements of the other one into it, and they work so seamlessly together. Hunter is asking, that's a great name. Oh my gosh, I'm doing great. I'm trying to read fast, and that's not my speed. I don't do fast. Hey, I was just wondering if you have any advice on what you can do to prepare yourself for education program. I'm going to be attending the 2019 spring year for secondary education degree. So I would say, Hunter, first of all, that's awesome. Congratulations on like doing that. I would just start reading books and documentaries, right? I think movies about teachers are very just like misleading a lot of times. Like, as much as everyone loves things like Dead Poets Society, which is one of my favorite movies of all time, or, Dangerous Minds or Freedom Writers, I think they breed this idea, or they could breed, I'm not saying that everyone does this, that like teachers have to be in it alone. Like you're going to be the one person that shows up and like gives your all, and then you're going to crush it. For some reason, we love that idea, especially in American culture, where like you're going to be like the one person that showed up and like made a difference. I really think it's about the team. I really think it's about working as a community of educators that are working together, where like if I can't get through to a kid, maybe the science teacher or the coach or the assistant principal, or we bring mom in, and then we're all working on this together. I think that's a way better avenue than the lone wolf idea. So I love writers like Rafe Esquith is the greatest. He's my favorite of all time. I think there's a ton of really great documentaries out there. And I actually have, I did a video somewhere. If you look it up, just type in, if you go to my channel, River Rap with Reynolds, and you type in the search part documentaries, I have a whole video on like my favorite teacher documentaries of all time. There's one that I'm going to forget his name, but a guy that I met from I think Kansas State University. So he made like a first year teacher documentary that was fantastic. So if you just search that on my channel, you'll find all kinds of videos that I've posted about that I love, or documentaries that I love. Nayara is asking, this is my friend from China, if you're new to the channel, says, I'm having a meeting today with people who don't really work efficiently, and we usually spend longer time meeting than necessary. I want to go to my support students at their first soccer game, which is the same time as the meeting. Would it be too rude to ask if we can work fast so I can go to the game? No, I don't think that's rude at all. I think for one, you are backing students, right? And two, some people like to have meetings that have no business being as long as they are. So just give it a hard out. Like say, hey, can we be done by this time? And then it just moves you along. It has people looking at their watches, not to see what time they want to go home, but just reminding them that like, all right, we have until this time. We need to get through this stuff. So do we need to talk about, I don't know, bathroom passes or whatever else people like to talk about for 100 years, and just keeps it moving. I think that's a fine idea.
I'm not sure what the question is.
For this top one?
Mm-hmm.
So The More You Grow says, hey, Reynolds, good to see you. Hey, man, good to see you too, buddy. Hey, one thing that I was worried about YouTubing as a teacher is I'm not sure if it is okay, not as far as student privacy. I sent out an email.
Not sure what is
I
okay.
sent that email on your consent form. I sent that email on your consent form. But
I guess you must have sent him something.
Oh, okay, so
But
here's.
I think he's asking like, what's okay to like have.
Okay, so here, I got this question a lot when I was at the Ed Camp conference yesterday. What I was talking about at this conference yesterday, I did a session on social media and students. And although most students sign a consent form going into school, I feel like that is for the school's use. But for my use, I send out a permission slip. I tell parents like what I'm using this for. I let them know that one, I never ever use a kid's full name. And a lot of times I don't even tell their real name. Because everyone has a nickname all the time. Two, I don't ever tell like where my school is, although it's like look, if someone really wanted to find out where your school was, I just feel like I'm buffered by the hood, so it protects me or something. Three, I never say things like where we're going in advance. Like I wouldn't say like, hey, like every year we go to Princeton University, and I talk about it on my channel, but I never say like, hey, we'll be at Princeton University this Thursday at 11:30 a.m. So you're sort of like, you are protecting kids in that way. I don't ever show like exactly where my school is. I don't do a whole lot of filming so someone can figure out what my school looks like inside. Like, that's kind of where I'm coming from with it. I don't like to live in fear, but I don't ever want to like subject my students to like possible harm. But here's why I think it's so important. I think part of putting kids on YouTube is, for me, is changing the narrative. It's changing the narrative of what folks think, young Black men from the inner city Philadelphia look like, act like. how smart they are, what their vocabulary is, what they act like, what kind of music they listen to, what kind of sports they play. And I love, not rewriting the narrative myself. I feel like providing the lens for all of you to kind of see who these dudes are, because they're lovely, lovely kids. All of them are going through something. All of them, not all of them come from like broken homes. Some have very, very supportive families that are amazing and really trying to help. Some kids that are going through tough stuff, like take it out in tough ways. Like they just don't know how to handle it. And if I can help in any way to create a lens for which to view students like that. And I don't think, young African-American men are like the be all end all of that. I think, there's a lot of stigmas out there from folks that live on like reservations in the US to folks that live in Nigeria or Russia or South Korea. Like, I think all those teachers could really do some great stuff by just like putting those students on the internet so people can realize, one of the things my students realize when I take them abroad is when they talk to other kids that are their age, they're like, this is the answer I get every year. Reynolds, they're like just like us. They're like normal kids. And it's like, yeah, that's the whole world, B, is like we're mostly all more alike than we are different. And so I just love being able to help create that narrative. Rebecca Waltz is saying, any tips on to simplify grading? I had to bring home over 80 projects over the weekend and it sucks. It sure does. So I would say rubrics are like my new favorite thing. And my homie, Mr. Hasty, who's in the classroom right next to me, that dude is amazing at making rubrics. And I've just seen some of his, I've copied what he does. Rubrics, first of all, give kids ahead of time it's like, here's exactly what we're going to do. Then you have to walk them through it because no one's ever going to read a rubric on their own. And the shorter and sweeter you can make them, the better. And then it just becomes, did you do this? Awesome. Did you do this? Awesome. And then sometimes on rubrics, I have space for like leaving comments, or I'll leave a longer comment. That stuff just really, really helps you move through it. I try and have as much stuff done on the computer as I can so that I don't have to like bring home poster board or those tri-fold things that are like take forever to carry in your car and stuff. It just makes it a whole lot easier. And then I have the kids try and fill up as much of the rubric ahead of time as possible. So like make sure when you hand it in, your name is on it and the period and the date. And then I just have them note like if it was late, if it was early, whatever. So I just think that that's a really quick way to do it. And then know what you're grading for. Don't feel like you have to put 1,000 different notes on there. If you're doing a project to look at like these 5 to 10 things, then it's really makes it a lot easier than feeling like you're going all over the place and grading for all crazy different kinds of stuff. What are you looking at? Okay. So Frank from Teachers to Connect is asking for Serena on Teachers Connect. Any advice or good resources for mentoring a new teacher? Serena is a first-time mentor. I think.
Is that her name? I'm sorry. I didn't read it right.
Oh, no, it's not Serena.
It's
Serenatha? I don't know. Frank,
Our
I'm
house
like
is
literally
awful.
the worst with names. I would say when I've mentored teachers in the past, when I first started doing it, I would give them 1,000 notes on like all the stuff they were doing wrong, right? And I think it has to be balanced. I don't think it doesn't necessarily have to be that Oreo cookie that everyone talks about, like give some good feedback, then give negative feedback, then give good feedback. Because I think now that I know people do that, every time someone gives me a compliment, I'm like, yo, you're about to drop some like terrible knowledge on me in a moment. And then you're going to like try and sweep it up with like something nice at the end. So I think just be more organic. But I think, something that's really important in just life is remembering to really like accept people for who they are right now and not for who you want them to be. Don't look at them as being a better teacher through the lens of like, well, this is what I do and this is what I think is important. Like, let them kind of be who they are, and what you're trying to do is foster that part of their personality. So you might be very serious. Let's say you are like my good friend Miss Cho at my school, who's like no nonsense, doesn't joke around, doesn't like laughing in the classroom. It's like, it's business time, but she's good at it. Like that's her jam. And she's a really good teacher. The kids respect her a lot. And then there's me, who I blow bubbles in the hallway and I make jokes all the time. I connect almost everything we're talking about in class to movies and television. I'm always bringing up like clips from movies and TV and old music videos to help my kids connect to their life. But so what you don't want to do is like, be like, oh, I would never want to tell a kid like, hey, you need to have more of a sense of humor in class. You need to find music videos and TV shows that you can connect to the literature. That's going to really bring your kids in, because that works for me. And just like Cho shouldn't tell everyone like, don't smile ever in class, and that you should be this particular kind of way. It just doesn't work. So what you're trying to do is figure out what that particular teacher is going to be good at, and then help them to triple down on that, and then help them to not worry so much about what they're not good at, because unless it's unless it's classroom management, right? But even that, you want to help them figure out how to fit their personality into the things that they're doing in class. Kyle Brokaw is saying, do you have any books on education that are good for people thinking about getting into education? I would say, Kyle, Teach Like Your Hair's on Fire is a book by Rafe Esquith, and it is the jam. And I would also say a book that's not on education, but has to do with dealing with people, especially if you ever thought about teaching, like not just inner city, but anywhere in any part of the world that is dealing with folks that are on the fringe, right? So like I said, that could be a reservation, it could be in another country, it could be inner city, it could be super rural, it could be like my homie Dustin from the YouTube channel Dust Tales teaches in like a school for kids that like have gotten kicked out of traditional schools and are now like in a heavily secured school. For folks like that, I think Tattoos on the Heart by Gregory Boyle is it is like 100%. It's all short stories. It makes me cry every single time I read it, but it's also my go-to jam. If I'm having a hard day and I'm at lunch, I just tell the kids I need a moment, and I'll read 15 minutes of that book. And I swear it just like makes my heart filled with like happiness. And I just want to do a better job for the rest of the day. Paula Robledo. I don't know why I did that. That's so stupid. Paula's asking, any advice on how to deal with new kids that are really behind? I've had kids before that have come in in the middle of the year. They come from Dominican Republic. They do not speak more than, a handful of words in English. And I think it just comes down to, you really want them to be excited about being there. You want them to be glad that they got moved into your class. So what you want to do is like, show them you're excited, show them you're willing to do anything that it takes for them to be there. And I realize that's not content yet, and I'm going to talk about content in 1 second, but what that's going to do is make them feel more comfortable, make them feel like you're someone they can trust, make them like more quickly than not get out of that sense of like being like the shy new kid that just sits there and doesn't say anything. So you're engaging with them, asking things about them. And then if you can figure out where they are, then you just kind of like figure out a faster way to get them to where they need to be. So maybe if that's with reading, you're giving them books on their level, giving them books that they like. Even if you have to like, maybe you don't have to buy them, but get them on Donors Choose, get someone to donate them. Maybe the school will pick up the tab. I don't know what kind of school you teach in, but you can maybe get them books that they like, or that they can pick out to help them catch up. Offer them a little bit of tutoring after school. 10 minutes of extra time after school goes a long way. Like if my son came home with math the other night, and it was like, how to multiply 352 by 297. Now, I remember how we did it in high school, probably because I was in that math class. But I remember how I did that when I was a kid. But now it's done this whole new crazy way. And it takes me an hour to figure out how to help him with his homework because I'm an English teacher for a reason. But if a tutor or if some adult or if his teacher worked with him for 10 minutes after school, they would probably be able to get through all of it with him in no time. So maybe offering that kid just that little bit of extra time after school or during lunch. And I think you'll find that they'll catch up very, very quickly with that little bit of like one-on-one time, especially because they're on your radar now, right? They're not just like flying under the radar. They're on your radar, and that helps you help people better when they're like that. And I would say also, my last piece of advice for that is call home and see what works best for that kid. We forget this, and I didn't realize this until I was a parent. Parents know their kids a lot of times, right? Crazy, better than we do. And we know the kids better in some ways than the parents do also. But I just think like maybe calling home and finding out like how do they learn best, what's worked best in the past, who was their favorite teacher, what made them so good. Those kind of things can really help you as well. Just Incredible Studios is asking, hey Reynolds, this week I'm going to meet with the school board CTE director about teaching digital media, and I hear she's not very positive and is harsh. Any advice on making a good first impression? Well, I would say, first, what am I thinking of here? I think one, at the conference yesterday, the young lady that I was with was like, look, I have to go do stuff. Are you going to be all right on your own? And I don't know why I said this, but I told her, I'm like, yeah, I'm really good at making friends. But just so happens, I am. Like, I just am good at making friends. Like, I just sit down next to people and start talking to them, and then they talk back to me, and it's awesome. I would here's what I would do. See if you can find that individual on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. Find something that they are interested in. Maybe they like cardinals. Maybe they're real into macrame. I think that's a thing, right? Some kind of sewing thing, right? Maybe they love I don't know why I pick these things. I pick examples that I don't even know what they are. Maybe they like baseball, or maybe their grandkid was on the swimming team. And then you don't have to go in telling them like, hey, I saw your grandkids on the swimming team, because then you're going to look like a creep. But just bring it up. Like, bring up baseball. Bring up something that they're interested in. And then once, when we can connect with people, no matter what level of happiness that they live on, and you show them that, there's a commonality between you, then it just works out better. Like now they're listening to you. Now they can now you've connected on something. And I think that's a big deal. The other thing is, I just think that happiness and positivity are contagious. I like being, Patch Adams once said that being happy in public is like one of the most daring things a human being can do, because most people don't walk around with a smile on their face because they don't want to be ridiculed, right? It's like we get like pat on the back. Like, we love to share in misery, but not in happiness. So just go in there, and then at the end of the day, bro, like, do the best. I assume it's a dude. I don't know why I did that, but just assume that or how do I want to say this? If it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And it wasn't because of you. Just go in and do your best. Make it about the students, and make it about like, here's value I think I can bring to you and your kids and your school. And this is what I want to do. And I'm super pumped to do it. And like, if you give me the opportunity, like, I'll make sure that I do the very best job that I can do. I mean, who's going to argue with that? I would say my lovely middle is asking, how do you develop good parent-teacher relationships? So oh gosh, I'm trying to think of a nice way to say this. I'm really good with parents. I feel like most of the time, I feel like I'm good with parents. And I think I'm good with parents because I think the way you do that is you, first of all, respect the parent. The parent, like I just said before this, the parent knows the kid better than you do, right? So ask the parent questions about their kid. And when you're showing, look, there's nothing a parent loves more than a teacher that is excited about what they're doing, is feeling positive about the year. Because let's be honest, like, no teaching year is ever easy. Teaching is the art of making something from nothing. And so I think that when my kids' teachers show a genuine interest in my kid, we'll have like that little extra note home, or like we'll just call to say like what was going on in class day, how they did a good job, or what they think they might need some extra help on for homework, or they didn't quite grasp this. it just shows a level of investment in my kid. And I think that goes a real long way with parents. And so most of the time, parents only get phone calls if there's a problem or if something didn't go right that day. And instead just calling home and saying, hey, this happened in class today. I'm trying to figure out like the best way to help your kid to learn to read or to get quiet in line. Or I'm noticing they have like a lot of leadership abilities. Like, has that worked for them in the past? What did they do with other teachers? How do you handle this at home? Like, that will go a really, really long way with parents, I think.
Or just a kind word of something that happens through the day.
Yeah.
Through the Remind app. Like, that's.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point too. Like, I didn't think of that. So I'm using Remind 101 this year because my kids' parents or my kids' teachers have used it in the past. And so you can just shoot a text home to parents, say like, hey, so-and-so did this in class today. It was super dope. And like, I was really proud of him. He had the first answer. He finished and helped clean up, like whatever it was. But like, I think that's just real cool stuff to send home as well. Megan Cole is asking, I am a VPK teacher and I use so many of your awesome ideas, even with my littles. Well, that is awesome. I'm glad that works for you. Would you ever consider working in a classroom with 4 and 5-year-olds, or would you pick high school any day? No, I just think, so I don't think I would do it now because I feel like it would be like starting from scratch and I'm not prepared. Like YouTube is my new, like, it's my favorite thing to do. Like, so I love teaching, but having this platform and being able to help people and like that are really, really in need has been so gratifying. I cannot even tell you. It's like, it is fantastic. Being able, when people reach out and they ask me to come and speak at their college or speak at a high school or speak at a conference, it is one of my favorite things to do because you feel like you're actually really helping people in real time that are going to go to work the next day and have something to help with. Now, that being said, I love little kids, like love little kids. And I think because I'm super weird and little kids are, I just don't think there's enough weird adults out there in like a good way anyway, right? It's like they forget what it's like to be a kid. They forget what it's like to just like do silly stuff, to be wacky, to play fun games and to like get in it with kids. And I especially don't see as many men out there doing that. And I just think that's a good role model for kids to see like, grown men that are still willing to have fun and do crazy stuff and be excited. I just think in public, I think it's awesome.
It's two-part.
Two-part. So top one first, I guess. That's how it reads. So Black Rose 29 is saying, hey, I'm a third-year teacher and I was made co-chair of my department this year. Besides being the one in charge, in quotes, of keeping the peace, personalities are clashing a lot this year and running meetings. What else would you want for your department chair? I think anyone in leadership, when they respect me as a professional, that goes really far. My school is also really, really good at autonomy. So the rules that I have in my class are not necessarily the same as anyone else's rules. Like there are folks I teach with that have like 100 rules in their classroom. I have 1. There are folks that take late work all year and that's cool, but I don't. And that is fine. Like I have that autonomy. I pick all of my own books and stuff like that as well. If I was having that issue, I feel like I would try and get those folks together outside of what they're doing, right? Outside of the classroom, outside of department meetings, and just say, hey, why don't you guys come over for a barbecue? Why don't we all go out for drinks? Why don't we meet up for dinner? Why don't we go do this thing together? Like, I don't know, I don't know what the hell people do. Throw axes or shoot bow and arrows or, I don't know, sign up for a 5K together or something like that to raise money for something important. Like my department head, Miss List, is always really like one of the things that's important to her. And I don't know that she started this, but she makes sure that happens every year is our department dresses up for Halloween every year. So one year we did Game of Thrones and I got to be Littlefinger, which I look a little bit too much like that dude, especially with his hair. Not right now. That stuff looks like I got struck by lightning. We did Walking Dead one year. We did, last year it was dress like your favorite Will Ferrell character of all time. And those, one year we did Parks and Rec. And so it's just really fun when you have those other experiences outside of the job. It just makes it better. And then maybe what you could do is meet up with some of those folks individually or in twos to just say like, hey, look, I'm really understanding where you're coming from, and I want to just hear you out, and I want you to know that what you think and what you feel is actually important to me. I think that goes a long way. I think most of us just want to be loved, just want to be appreciated. And when you can love and appreciate people, even though I get it's a professional setting, you can't be all like, gushing on people, but I think just doing small acts of, here's the big thing, doing small acts of kindness is always better than the one big sweeping thing that you're going to do that's really kind, right? So I think if you're a principal, you're far better off walking around, checking in on people, saying what's up, bringing them a nice little surprise, whether it's an extra cup of coffee or just doing something like you saw their copies on the printer and you brought them to their room or whatever it is way better, way more effective than having a really dope Christmas party that year. Like everyone loves the Christmas party, but like it's all those little things, right? My wife, here she is. Do you love me? Yes, I do. My wife and I get along because of all the little stuff that we do for one another. Not because like Valentine's Day is the dopest or like I'm not even going to be home for our anniversary this year. I have to go to San Diego. But that's okay because I do nice little stuff for her all the time, like pet her. So that's what I would do. That's making me think of. E is asking, how do you deal with a student who simply refuses to do work in class? I have a student who doesn't talk or disrupt anyone around him, but won't pick up a pen and write. So let me tell you this story real quick. This is going to be a video at some point. I have Joe. Joe is one of my favorite students of all time. But when Joe was a freshman, Joe was not a good student. Joe wrote on the outside of his notebook, wouldn't do any work, wouldn't sit up, wouldn't talk, mumbled all the time, still does all the time. He just talks like this all the time. Yo, what's up? How's it going? All right. But so I gave Joe detention for a week, and Joe's detention was to eat lunch with me every single day. My wife packed him a lunch every day, wrote his name on the outside because I noticed he never ate lunch, wrote his name on the outside of it. Sometimes she wrote him a nice little note on the inside. And by the end of the week, I really got to know Joe. I got to ask him all these questions about where does he live? Who does he live with? What does he like about school? What does he hate about school? I asked him about his religion. I asked him about the sports and video games that he's interested in. And then at the end of the week, he ended up telling me like some really heavy stuff that had happened within his friend group the previous summer. And what it did was, like I'm always talking about on here, it allowed me to see him for who he was, and it allowed me to understand where he was coming from. It didn't make what he was doing okay. It just made it understandable. And so when you can reach that point with kids where they can actually understand that you're really caring about them, they can believe in themselves a little bit more. And if a child, if any of us can't believe in what we're doing, everything else is useless. You will not succeed in going to the gym if you don't believe you will have muscles by putting in the work. Nobody will be consistent in their classroom or stand up against, anyone that's being oppressed or stand up for people that are being oppressed if they don't believe that they can actually have a positive impact. So what you're trying to do is get that kid to believe in themselves. And sometimes that takes you believing in the kid first so they can see that that's actually possible, that someone would actually do that for them. So I give that dude detention and tell him that he has to eat with you every day, bring him in something little for lunch, or if you know that he likes goldfish or Doritos or something, just bring some in for him. Be like, hey, here we go. We're going to wrap every day at lunch because I care about you and because I want to know more about you and I want to help you succeed. And this is how we're going to get down and do it. And then just make it all about them and then match their vulnerability with your own. They tell you a story about their parents, try and open up a little bit. I mean, you don't have to tell them all about your relationship with your boyfriend or any kind of crazy stuff, but like you can at least kind of meet them as far as they're going. Kelsey Hoyt is asking, hi, Mr. Reynolds, you are a teacher role model. Thank you very much. That's really nice. I love hearing that stuff. I wish we could get you to come all the way to our middle of nowhere in Illinois. You have an impact on you'd have an impact on our staff, currently full of toxic teachers. Yo, here it is, Kelsey. If you can get someone to fly me out to middle of nowhere, Illinois, and pick me up from the middle of nowhere airport, I'd 100% go there. You can just shoot me an email at realrapwiththereynolds@gmail.com. And you would not be the first person that put a comment up and I just end up flying somewhere in the middle of nowhere. But I love that stuff. And it would be my honor to come and speak with your staff. My buddy, the Scottish revert teacher, is saying, hey, Reynolds, it looks like my youngest is on the spectrum and just started school. He has good grades, or he has good days and bad days. But how do you make your work understood, or how do you make your work understand that my morning classes might be affected? Yo, by doing this, by telling them that your morning classes will be affected because your child takes longer to get out of the house.
You're working that out.
That is something, without going into too much detail, because at this point, I would love, let me just say this. I would love to share more about my own personal life and struggles and parenthood than I do. I don't, because at my kid's age, I don't want to put them out there. I don't always know who's watching this. I don't want to put something that's going to live on the internet forever and like embarrass them in some way, shape, or form down the road. So I keep a lot of that to myself. But I will say that I know what you're talking about and I live what you're talking about. And so my wife and I actually had to put into my son's IEP this year that it's going to take us longer to get to school some days. Guess what? It just is. Like, we're like and the problem with that is when you have someone that's silently struggling, when you have someone that has high functioning autism, right? Or Asperger's, or any number of other, like they have an auditory processing dislike. So like they don't respond as quickly as you need them to, whatever it is. Or kids are just ADHD and their medicine didn't kick in yet. And they're like, you're like, put on your shoes, put on your shoes, put on your shoes. And they're just standing there like, I don't know where they are. I don't know where they are. And they're like, bro, they're literally in your hands. So that stuff is kind of like not appreciated sometimes, right? It's like, but if you had a student that was like physically handicapped, or if your child was physically handicapped, the school would be okay with that. And I just think, and I'm not saying anything about like, God bless those kids and God bless those parents. I realize that it has to be a ton of work to help get them out the door in the morning, but you're dealing with this kind of like silent thing, and just let the school know, like, bam, this is what's happening. Like, I'm a great mom and just watch me. Like, this is what I got to do for my kid. And that I can't see anybody giving you a hard time about that, or fellow teachers. Like, what are you going to do? Give me shit because I'm trying to like love my kid the best that I can. So be strong. You can do that. And I think that's the best move that you can do. And good for you for like standing up for your kid. Awesome. Teacher's Playbook is saying, how do you know, in capital letters, when you have supported admin team? It's like, that for some reason, it made me think of Whitney Houston. How will I know if he really loves me? You just know, right? It's like, my former principal, I've had a lot of unsupportive admin in my life, from department heads to grade level deans to principals and vice principals and other mystery important people. And then when I went to West Philly, I have my principal, Dr. Tennant, is like the greatest. And I just know he's the greatest because when I had to take my kids, this makes me think of Scottish revert teachers question. When I had to take my kids to school for the first day, right? Like it's my first day of school, like my guys are coming back and my own children are going back to school. Dr. Tennant goes, well, wait, are you coming in a little bit late tomorrow so that you can take your kids to school in the morning? And I like wanted to cry because I'm thinking, I was so nervous. It was the first day of school. I didn't want to miss Brody's first day of school, but he like gave me the okay before I even had to ask. Or one time I was going to California. My brother was getting married. I was going to officiate the wedding. And I wasn't sure if I just fly out for the day and then fly right back because I didn't know. And he was like, no, it's your brother, right? Like you need to go for all the stuff. And then he's like, you're going to hit up Disney while you're in California too, right? And I'm like, well, hell yeah, now I am. So that kind of stuff where principals don't get hung up on the little things. They respect you for an actual professional. They let you go with crazy ideas. Like when my principal paid $400 for us to go on a graffiti class trip. That was the greatest class trip any of my students had ever been on. But like we were learning about graffiti. He saw the importance of that. He saw the kids I was taking and he knew the impact that that would have on those kids. And I think when principals can think outside the box like that and let you run with like your crazy ideas sometimes, that's when you know you have someone truly supportive. What do you got, dude? Teaching with Josh is saying, how would you do if a student had a meltdown? Like, how would I deal with it? I think that happens all the time. And typically, I think what I want to do is remove students from the classroom as kind as I can. I usually go over and just like, if someone like, let's say someone's getting picked on the low, someone gets a text message, they check it in class and something bad happened and now they're freaking out about it. Let's say somebody is just having a bad day. Everybody gets at least one out a year, right? So if I have a kid that comes in, they have a seriously bad headache or they don't feel well or their mom and them got in a really bad argument before school. Everybody gets at least one day a year where we just call it chalking it. And you can lay on my couch, you can close your eyes, you can just listen to music. And what that's doing is you are recognizing the humanity in that kid. You're recognizing the fact that they came to you and they had the wherewithal to say, I'm not having a good day. And so they get to just check it. So you could do that with a kid that's having a meltdown as well. The second thing I would do is remove them from the classroom, say, hey, come talk to me in the hallway or just step in the hallway real quick. You're not in trouble at all. I just want to, give you some space. Then what that's going to do is going to strip away the audience. Not the whole class is listening to them anymore. And you have the ability to just talk to that kid for real. And that can help as well. Or call someone up, text someone, I need you to come down to my room real quick. Like I'm having a hard time with so-and-so. Some other teacher comes down and the teachers I work with do a really great job with this guy, Mr. Rufo last year, who was like my homie at school. I was having a hard time with a kid. I couldn't get him out of my classroom. So I just put my head in the hallway. Rufo was luckily at the end of the hallway. I need your help. He came in. He was not a part of the situation. So the kid listened to him more calmly and just said, hey, man, come on. Let's just go in the hallway. We'll figure this out and we'll take it from there. And he was able to easily get that kid out into the hallway. And it was the best. And so I just think never, ever losing your cool. Even if you feel like you are going to bite your tongue off, you have to remain calm and then just let the kid know, dude, you're not in trouble. Even though you're freaking out, what I need you to do is step in the hallway. Because from the hallway, you can send them to the office, you can call somebody up, you can have a conversation with them, you can give them a chance to chill. They're not embarrassed because everyone's watching them anymore. It helps with everything when you do that. A bunch of numbers asked, hey, Reynolds, just wondering if you and or your co-teachers use proximity control to keep your guys engaged. If they are off task, do you stand by them so they feel your presence? 100%. I think nothing. They're in a pinch, right? Being closer to a kid always helps. And enter at your own risk here, right? So like, I feel comfortable enough, and I can read kids well enough at this point where like I can go over and like put my hand on someone's shoulder and say, B, you gotta chill. Or I'll write on a Post-it note, like, keep your head up. Or that was, I learned that from my friend, Randy Rebuy, who wrote After the Shot Drops, if you want a good book for your kids. He used to write Keep Your Head Up from Tupac and put it on like Post-it notes and then put it down on their desk. Just going over, that's where I started like squirting kids with water pistols, or I put tape in their hair, or I put a tissue on the end of a ruler and I just dangle it in their face and it annoys them. And then they sit up or they stop talking or whatever. And so for me, it's that playfulness. But for folks that aren't particularly playful, or you don't want to enter into that space, you don't feel safe doing that, like just being near a kid. Like if a kid's in the front of the classroom talking, I will often go near whoever talks the most and just sit next to them. I'm not sitting here because you talk a lot. Like I don't have to tell them like I need to sit near them. I'm just being close to you. And then if you're talking too much, I was like tapping you. I was like, bro, chill. He's talking right now. And then that's it. It helps and works every single time. What do you got there, lady?
We kind of answered that question already.
We can do it again. Lizzie Ann Roman is saying, what do you do when a student just doesn't care? Not only in your class, but in school in general. I've tried it all with him and he just doesn't care. All right, so Lizzie, I have answered this question a couple times tonight, but I think it's important, so I'm going to answer it for you now. And I'm going to answer it like this. Not everything happens in the time frame we want it to happen. You can still win, but it's kind of like, you know, I heard somebody say one time, I think it was Gary Vaynerchuk, talked about like, you know, everyone wants to be a millionaire in the next 6 months to a year. And then if they can't, they just give up on being a millionaire. But what if you knew you could be a millionaire in your lifetime if you kept putting in the work? And so I think that equates to this is you might not be winning right now, and that kid might not be caring right now, but you just, when you don't give up, right? It doesn't mean you have to focus on just them every day. I actually think it's not a very good move because it's going to mean that you're not giving attention to other students. But when you just keep trying, you can get that kid to listen to you. I think also sometimes using older kids or finding what peer group they're in and then maybe like introducing to some new people that do care. Like sometimes changing a kid's peer group or giving them an out for a peer group really, really helps as well. And sometimes helping them find their worth. Like let them clean your boards in your room. Let them help you hand out papers. Give them a job. So like, look, I know you don't like doing this when we're in class. Is someone being a jackass on here?
Mm-hmm.
I
already did it.
Oh, you took care of it? All right, word. So if sometimes like if a kid doesn't want to do whatever we're doing as a pre-class, I'll be like, look, I'll give you the out for that, but I need you to do this for me. You're going to like grade these things real quick, or you're going to collect papers, or you're going to like make copies for me or something like that. And that gives a kid a reason to want to show up. It gives them a sense of ownership over the class. It helps them to want to be there because they like doing all that stuff and they feel important. And then from there, it's like, all right, but if you get to do this stuff, the next part of the lesson when we're doing this, I need you 100% locked in, or I'm not going to give you the opportunity to do this. And it works like most of the time for me. Where are we at the top? No. Mo Leaf is asking, I have a foreign exchange student whose English is terrible. I don't know how to teach him math. Any suggestions? So first of all, kids that need to learn English will learn English way faster than you ever thought they could. Take your time, and what you want them to do more than anything is not feel like the outcast, not feel like a weirdo, not feel like they are a burden on you. Just like, bro, I got you, man. We're going to figure this out. It's going to take a while. Last year, I got this dude from Trinidad. Felt like a little bit awkward in the beginning of the year. I could sense that in him. But I just made sure that, like, when he came to school, he knew that, like, lunch was happening in my room with my homies and that odd cast of characters that all of you get to see on the videos all the time. And when you're a part of a group like that, you're accepted very, very quickly. You get to just relax a little bit. I got to ask him about himself and learn about him. And then that, you know, when you can get someone to talk about themselves, get them talking about something they enjoy talking about, which is typically themselves or some sport that they like. Excuse me for a moment. I drink my tiny water. Helps them feel relaxed, helps them feel like you care, and they will try harder for you. I'm dying right now on YouTube.
15 minutes to go.
So that's kind of where I would start with that. And that's kind of what I'm thinking. What's this dude doing on there?
I timed him out.
Kimberly Wallback, I don't know what's up with that. I'm gonna get rid of this homeboy right now.
I did already. Hide user or report.
Yeah, let's report. Hate speech. Hate speech. I'm reporting you. And now you're gone.
All right. Well, Kimberly Wallback has the next question.
All right. What's Kimberly Wallback asking about?
What are some really essential things to do during the interview?
During the school interview?
Like, I guess for a job.
Oh, if you're going for an interview, I think the number one thing that you can do is, one, make sure that you're making this job about the kids and how excited you are to be there and how excited you are that school would even ask you for an interview. Like, and then learn as much about the school as you can. Gosh, that made me cry when I was coughing. Learn as much about the school as you can, and then ask them questions based on things their school does. So you might say like, hey, so I noticed you guys do block scheduling. Let me ask you how that dynamic works. So I noticed that you have trimesters instead of quarters. Like, how does that work? And so when you start asking them things about themselves, about sports there or opportunities, it shows that you've done your homework. And what it's doing is it turns that interview that the school's interviewing you around a little bit, and you start interviewing the school and figuring out if it's a place that you want to be. And then also like lets them know like, yo, this person like did their homework. Like they're ready to come in and have this interview. And I think whenever I'm in an interview with someone, they start asking about the school, I'm like, yo, this dude's legit, because like that's the move that he make. And I appreciate that. Because what I think what that shows is like, you're not just going on all these interviews and wherever you go, you'll land and you're trying to sell yourself, but you're like showing them that like, I took enough time to like read up on you guys and figure out what you're interested in and what's important to you. And I read your mission statement and all this stuff. And I think that just shows up. That shows a really good thing about you. E is asking parent-teacher meeting advice. I think I'm going to have my first round of parent-teacher meetings this year, and I'm scared. So one, I have a video on my site. If you go to the top of the Real Rap with Reynolds YouTube channel, you can type, there's a place where you can search, just type in like parent-teacher meetings or something like that. I run through this whole thing. And more than anything, look, I think it's super important, but you have to believe this, right? You can't bullshit parents. I think telling parents that you're not interested in winning arguments. My goal is to help your kid to learn, right? So if I say I'm having an issue in class because so-and-so keeps sleeping, and then the kid goes, I wasn't sleeping. And then the mom goes, well, he says he wasn't sleeping. Well, look, I'm not interested in winning this. I'm telling you what I'm noticing, not to get him in trouble, not to put the blame on him, but to say, this isn't working. So what can we figure out that's going to work? And then asking parents like, well, what would, like, if you see your kid doing this, if they're not doing homework, like what works for you at home to try and get your kid on point? Like, do they need a standing desk? Do they need to be removed from the classroom to take a test? Do they need to be able to retest? Like, what's worked in the past? And you are acknowledging that the parent knows about their child, and then that will really, really help you. Because what it looks like is you're being supportive, and you're not there to just put someone on blast. So that's what I would do. It's super fun. Like it is very, very rare that I have an irate parent come in and say something to me about what I'm doing wrong. It happens, right? And sometimes you go, if that happens, you just go, I'm really sorry that you feel that way. And I want to be the best teacher for your kid that I can be. So like, let's figure that out. Like, let's figure out or let them know, like, you're working on how you're going to be better at that, and just take the L sometimes. Sometimes when parents come at you, you were the one that was actually doing something wrong. So just be willing to take that L and then change it. Tasha Hoskins is saying, hello, have you ever encountered severe personality conflicts among students, and how do you manage that? I am a 5th grade teacher and have a few boys who physically fight often. I think, Tasha, the reason anyone fights is because they don't know a better option than that. Because not fighting is, in my school so I teach in inner city Philadelphia. My boys, vulnerability is weakness. You don't tell someone you hurt my feelings, right? You punch them in the face. You don't tell someone, hey, could you stop doing that? I don't like the way it's making me feel. No, you just punch them in the face. And so, because punching someone in the face or fighting them makes you look like a man, makes you look like you handled your shit. And, the problem with that is, you have to work on it with the kids to help them figure out that, like, what you're doing is trying to figure out what to do with the anger that's inside of you. How can we best handle that? Because what you're doing right now is you're not winning. What is it that you want to do in this life? Do you want to be an engineer, a doctor? You want to play in the NFL? Whatever it is that you want to do, and you reverse engineer that, getting in fights does not help you. It's actually going to put like a mark on your record that could potentially keep you out of a particular school or a college or away from the military or whatever it is that you want to do. And so it doesn't help your plan. So like, this is the plan, right? This is what we're working towards. So to do that, we're going to have to learn how to manage our anger, manage our fear, manage our anxiety in a different way. And then try and literally sit down with that kid and go, what would work best for you, right? Is it separating yourself and listening to music for 5 minutes? Is it taking a walk and getting a drink, stepping into the hallway, moving your seat to somewhere else? And then letting those kids know that they're actually worth something, that they're actually valuable, that they are worth so much that you don't want to see that happen to them. And then this is a little bit more counseling than a lot of people do, but like, what is going on there? Like, why does the kid feel so much anger? Why do they feel so much anxiety? Because when you can figure out that someone had something horrific happen to them, and you can at least get them to share that, what it does is I think it takes those things down a notch. You're not so full of that anger. You let it out a little bit. But the thing is, you have to keep letting it out a little bit, a little bit, a little bit. And you can be the person that helps them with that. You can maybe sit with a group of other adults, like teachers in the building or the principal, and say, we're not here to vilify you. We're here to try and understand where you're coming from so we can meet you there and then help you get to where you need to be, because this isn't working for you in any way, shape, or form.
All right, we're way over time. We're already 20 minutes over, so we'll answer a few more questions and then sorry for.
Yeah, cool. Let's do 2 more. All right, let's do 2 more. Light and Storm Fights is saying, have you ever stopped a fight in your class or in the hallway? So I have. I don't like to do it though. I do. One time I stopped a fight using the force, where 2 kids were fighting. I swear this happened. It was friggin' awesome. And I go, stop fighting. And I said, you will do this now. And they literally were like holding on to one another, about to punch. And they just looked at me. I said, you will stop fighting now. And they did. And I was like, in my back of my head, I'm thinking, holy shit, I can't even believe that just happened. Like, that is mind boggling. But I've stopped fights with playing love jams. This is real stuff that I've done where someone was about to fight and I will say, wait. If you're going to fight, I don't want my room messed up. We got to like move the desks in a circle. So like, this is like for real. Or I want you to be on YouTube. If you're going to fight, I got to have it on YouTube. It's going to make me look a lot tougher. Or saying, we don't fight now, but look, can we do this after school? Like, I'll get everyone to show up. It'll be awesome. We'll get like a whole circle of kids. It'll be great. I've played the love song from Karate Kid 2, which is queued up on my desktop in case anyone ever starts arguing, because no one wants to fight while there's Sweet Love Jams playing in the background. And other times it's just had to break up fights and try not to get my face punched in. But, I don't suggest doing the weird stuff if that's not you, but I'm just saying for me, what that does is, especially for boys, I read a study one time that said boys, when they get into a fight, number one, they want everyone to know about it. That's why they yell super loud before they do it. 2, they don't want to get hit. They want to get in there. They want to land some punches to save face. And then they want their friends or someone else to break it up, which is why we let the whole world know before we fight. Girls will lock themselves secretly in a bathroom and pull out each other's hair and nails, and it's real nasty. But boys don't operate that way. Also, boys are typically, and I teach boys, so that's why I'm speaking that, typically looking for an out before the fight happens. No one ever really wants to fight, right? They want to get the anger out. They want to save face. They want to not look like a punk in front of everyone else, and they want to protect their honor. But if you can give them a laugh, a moment, a breath, it oftentimes releases that or gives them the out to just say, like, everyone's kind of laughing now, or they made you laugh. And they can even be like, yo, kind of like, you're lucky that Reynolds just played love jams because like we were about to get into it. And like, that's fine. I'll provide the out for you. But like, sometimes kids just want the out before it happens. We don't. Sarah Childs?
Yeah.
Sarah Childs, the only schooling mom, is saying favorite teacher movies. My favorite teacher movies of all time are, of course, Dead Poet Society. That got me to want to be that on some level to want to be a teacher. And oh gosh, I don't know. There's one.
What's the guy with the drug addict? It's
Half Nelson. Bam. Talk about the opposite of every other teacher movie. Half Nelson is Ryan Gosling back when he used to do independent movies. And he is a crack addict who is a history teacher who wants to be a really good history teacher, but he struggles with this drug addiction. And there's this little girl in his class that he really connects with. And He like wants to be better for her. It's just beautiful. And then there's another movie that is in French that I think it's The Choir or something like that. It's like a choir teacher goes into a school. That is really great. But more than teacher movies, I think Boy Meets World, man. I think Mr. Feeney is the greatest fictional teacher of all time. He was no nonsense. He loved the kids. He didn't BS. He gardened, which is just awesome. He was legit and consistent every single day and was like ride or die with those kids no matter what. So that's why someone sent me a Feeney picture this year and I put it in a frame. It's in my room and none of my students know who it is, but like he is my favorite fictional teacher of all time. So look, gang, before you get out of here, someone asked me about these shirts and they said, do I have shirts to sell? I don't know that I would sell this particular shirt, but if you were interested in shirts from the Real Rap with Reynolds world, let me know. Leave a comment so that I know if this is like something that I should do. But if you're looking for teacher shirts in general, I would say go to Vanessa at My Second Grade Life on YouTube and Instagram. She sells them, and she made this lovely shirt for me, and that's why I'm wearing it this evening. And that's it. Oh, and to the woman that asked me to speak, yo, here's the gig. If you ever have any interest in having me come and speak at your school, I don't care where you teach. You could teach in Israel because I have a homie there that I'm trying to get in with. You could teach in Kansas or Illinois or New Mexico, wherever. If you can get me there, I'll come speak wherever you are. I don't care where it is because I love that stuff and I love engaging with people and I love bringing value as much as I possibly can. What are you whispering over there?
Just ask your administration.
Just ask your administration. Say, I know this dude. Here's some videos. You should have him come speak at the school. It would be awesome.
If you sent an email, we're getting
Oh, yo, and real quick, if you sent me an email, I swear to you, I am trying to get emails back. It takes so long and I've been getting so many. They matter to me, right? I read them
and we're working
and I'm really working hard to get there. So please hang in there and know that you are not lost in the sauce. I will 100% email you back and you will love it because I'll send your own little video and hopefully it won't be weird for you. But don't send me a video back because that's no, it's hard because then people are like, they're not just writing that how they appreciate what I do. They're like actually telling me, and I'm like, oh. And that's another thing I'm working on, is taking compliments. But anyway, gang, I really think you're a fantastic group. If you have any other questions, leave them in the comments. If you can help me with any of those, like my man Richard Voicer's been rocking all night, please help me out. It really helps that like we are a community of educators working together for the betterment of one another and for kids. And that's it. Peace. All right, awkward ending because I got to hit the button and I got to hit it again. Here we go.
Bye.
Peace.